There's going to be a lot of interesting insights and learnings today. And I'm sure you know Chantal and Tess by now. Chantal's our CEO of Brand Love. Tess is our co-facilitator today. So yeah, Chantal, I'm going to hand over to you. Unless we want to wait a moment for other people to join.
Amazing. No, Ashad, Tess will be watching the waiting room and we'll let those folks in. So welcome everyone who joined us this afternoon. Also welcome to the people tuning into our live stream on YouTube and LinkedIn. And I want to invite you, put some questions in the chat, right? If I'm talking fast and you want to ask some questions, put them in the chat. Tess will be watching the chat for us and we will get to those questions. So fantastic. So this afternoon we are talking about customer journeys and what happens when they are not activated, right? And I'm going to start off by just sharing my screen, and I want you to grab your mobile phone. We are going to do a quick poll using your mobile phone. So I want you to scan that code with your phone, or alternatively go to menti.com and enter the code 82087106. All right, and in a moment, I'm going to be asking you some questions so that we can have nice participation from the people as loud as me and the people that are quiet. All right, Tess, will you put that code in the chat as well? Fantastic. Excellent, and I'm seeing some people landing on that page. Stunning. I'm a bit of a color explosion today with my pink and my red, and I've got some carrot juice here, so I'm going for all the all the colors that usually don't belong together. All right, great. You got the instructions for the Menti. So let's start, as is customary, with how do you feel today? And all emotions are welcome. I woke up with a sore throat, so I started as being quite pissed off because I've just been ill for a few days and been on antibiotics. Now I'm drinking lots of carrot juice. All right, let's see. How do you feel today? All emotions welcome. Nice, happy, relaxed, awesome, eager, feeling better, feeling excited, uplifted, feeling a little bit emotional. Yeah, that's welcome too. Feeling stressed? Yeah, just let it all out, right? You come to the right place for a bit of light entertainment if you're feeling stressed. Feeling sad? Yeah, we're here for you. Give you some hugs. Feeling concerned? Feeling old. Now that's one emotion that whoever that was, it's only in the mind, right? You don't need to feel old. You are loved either way. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing those feelings. Now we know what's in the room. Excellent. All right, so let's go on. And if you are here and you are here for the first time in a Brand Love session, or you are not that familiar with the topic, so a customer journey map is something we do to make the journey of the customer a lot more predictable and to design some care and some love and some wow into the customer journey. So give me an idea of how many of you have done journey mapping, either for the customer or for the employee. So you've got a guy there who's dabbled, if you can, and if you're a ninja. All right, so we've got a lot of humble people because I know people in this room that can do some awesome ninja stuff. Liesel, I'm looking at you in particular. She's smiling. If you come to a session, Liesel, you'll always be put on the spot, right? She's got her beautiful red lipstick on. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so now give me an idea for the people who are familiar with customer journey maps and you've seen that, you know, some of them just stay in the documents and they just don't deliver results. Tell me, what are some of the reasons that you've seen that, you know, customer journey maps don't deliver results, that they just never activated?
Chantal, so we've lost your mentee. We are now on
Oh,
your, there we are.
you've lost my mentee. Thank you.
That's
That's when
fine.
I'm
No,
trying to do too much, Tess. I was trying to see whether the live stream is really live.
the
But
live is live. So
the live
it's,
is live. Okay,
yeah,
thank you. You
got
watch
it.
that for me, please. All
Yes,
right,
on it.
so let's have a look at the reason. So stakeholder buy-in, not a good change management plan, and there's no action, little organizational ownership, and don't know how to tie journey actions that will result in happy clients, not living beyond the journey maps, no leadership commitment, lack of follow-up, management don't see the value that it can bring. The starting point is difficult to understand, accountability, poor organizational leadership, and results are serving a different purpose and not being used. Amazing, amazing. So we are going to tackle some of these. And if you put something up here which you would like me to speak to in a little bit and I haven't covered it, please just raise it as a question and I'll make sure that I do cover that. All right. Great. So let me quickly see. All right. So I'm going to just stop that share and let me just bring up the things that I've prepared for you. All right, so let's see if we can get this going. Ashad, if you can spotlight me, please. All right, so if you want to effect change in an organization, you've got to sometimes look at, all the puzzle pieces that make up that organization. And I'm going to ask Arshad to send you all this diagram in an email following this. And for the people on LinkedIn, if you would like to have the diagram, just please reach out to Tess and she'll hook you up with this diagram. So I created this to show people the complexity of what you're dealing with. Whether you're a small organization or a big organization, you have these puzzle pieces in your ecosystem. And I refer to this as the experience-oriented enterprise blueprint. And it's really a great blueprint to consider when you want to make a change. And I'm going to talk through each of these in a bit of detail. So sometimes we are so passionate and so excited about the change that we want to effect that we sometimes prefer, or sometimes we just don't look at the pieces of the ecosystem that need to be in balance. And like this diagram, it's a little bit like yin and yang, right? We're never going to get the things done unless we consider the system within which we want to do this. So let me start with this. First of all, I think it's important for your organization to understand the pieces of this blueprint and for you to refocus on what are some of the problems you solve for both customers and employees. So if you want to orient your organization to experience, you need to again look at what are some of the problems you're trying to solve. And you'll hear me say this quite a bit. If you want someone to take action, if you want someone to change, there's only two ways they're going to change. That is if they're in too much pain and they want to shift away from the pain, or they have such an excitement about potentially joy and pleasure that they'll move towards it. That's why people change. That's why people make decisions. So for your customer, the problem that you're solving is taking pain away from them, or it's injecting some joy into their lives, and the same for an employee. And that's why it's important that we refocus on this, is so that we can understand what's the purpose of the journey. The purpose of the journey is to solve the problems, and that's going to give you some cues into how people feel. So again, for the customer, filling in this end frame, what do you want them to say about you at the dinner table? Do they say nothing because they don't care and your experiences are so bland? Or do they say positive things, or do they say negative things? And that you can decide before you embark upon your journeys. Then if we delve deeper into the life of the customer, we usually see them as a segment. We see them as a kind of a non-human that's sitting in a bucket. I always joke about, my customer is a woman between the age of 25 and 35. And I can tell you, I've been between the age of 25 and 35 for a number of years, definitely more than 10, actually 20. So we need to really start looking at the customer through a different lens. Most of the time, they're not alone. They're part of a little ecosystem. Maybe they've got kids. Maybe they're part of an extended family. Maybe they've got animal kids like Liesel's got on her lap. But we need to start looking at them through a different lens and refocusing on all of them have a story, they have some fears, they have some goals, and they have some needs. And unless we start playing to make their life better, to make their life easier, they're just not going to care about our brand, no matter how much marketing money we throw at interactions. Then we get to the employee, and this is a question I love. What does an employee say about your company on the last day before they leave? Do they tell stories of how amazing their career has been there, what a stepping stone it has been for them to go on to a new role? Or do they say, thank you, Lord, that I'm done here, right? So what is that narrative that happens? And you can again set a goal. You want an employee to feel that they're giving you their time, they're practicing their craft, and that it's all worthwhile. All right. And the same as the customer, the employee, they have a story, they have needs, they have goals, they have fears, and they're part of a little ecosystem at the office. They're part of a team, and that team has a leader, and there's lots of expectations between the employee and the team and their leader. And sometimes there's a lot of unspoken things that bleed into the culture. All right, now my favorite part, experience essence, Ashad. Tell the beautiful people here, what is experience
Mhm.
essence? Come on, I know you know.
Oh man, this is such a good topic. The experience essence, pretty much if you walk into an organization and you strip out all of the branding, all of the colors, and you can still make out who they are, that's pretty much what you're left with. It's the essence. It's pretty much it's the core values, it's a mission, it's a vision, and it's pretty much what the leadership actually believes in and what the people believe in as well. So that's pretty much in a nutshell, the experience essence.
Stunning, Arshad. And if I can bottle a brand, right? And I can put it in a little
Right.
bottle like this, the secret sauce that I can spray on everyone, that's that essence. And it's so important. Most companies have not articulated this. They have a brand tagline and they have lots of marketing blurb, but they just they haven't articulated this. So if I ask the leaders this question and I say, tell me in 3 words, what is your essence? 3 words. And I go to the most junior person in the organization and I say, give me 3 words. Most of the time I get 6 words, right? I don't get the same 3 words. And that's why it's so important to set this target so that everybody can have the same narrative, so that when I take your logo away, I'm left with, we are so clear about what our experience should be. And a lot of the time, this is why journey mapping, the investment in journey mapping does not pay off, because we're not all designing for the same experience. We don't get consistency because we haven't articulated our target experience. We haven't articulated what we want people to feel about themselves in an interaction with our brand. Because we keep on saying, how do they feel about our brand? Do they like our brand? Do they not like our brand? It's not about your brand. It's about how they feel about themselves in an interaction with your brand. We are also sometimes not clear about the expectations. If you look at the people I've had on that diagram, there's a lot of people there. I've got my customer, my employee, my leader, my shareholder, my suppliers, my teams inside the organization, and everybody has expectations of everyone else. But sometimes we haven't articulated those. So it's really important to look at these different pieces. All right, so now we get to the journey. So if I look at my customer journey, there's something that gets my customer into the journey with me. And then they go through these moments in the journey. And I often say that, if you look at a relationship, any key relationship in your life, that relationship is not defined by a single moment, right? It's defined by, banking the love over a period of time. I remember I have banked with the same bank for about 20 years, and I've tried to leave them twice. And I couldn't, because I just love them too much. I wasn't going to leave them over an interest rate. It's usually when I buy property that, you go and shop around, and I just said to them, yeah, they make it so hard to leave, because if I look over the time span that I've been with them, there's so many good things that's in that relationship, and real care in that relationship, which is not something that you often associate with a bank. So it's important in these journeys that we look at the moments of magic, the moments of misery, and that we design the experience essence into these moments. The same for employees. And we always want to ask that end frame, what should people say in that end frame? What do you want them to say about the interaction with you? I have avoided going into certain shops, and my team, they've heard this story probably hundreds of times. And the shops that I avoid going into is the shops where I feel really bad about my own behavior. I turn into an angry person, and I don't want to be angry. I'm in menopause. My life's way too short to be angry. So I don't want to hang around people where I lose my temper and be angry. And that's why I avoid some brands. So we want to make sure that we catch that end frame. Now, if they surveyed me, I would probably never, ever admit what I feel like inside, right? The grocery store, I feel totally useless because I'm so not domestically in charge of my house, right? If they survey me and said, what's your experience like? I would go, it's fine, because I don't want them to know what's going on in the internal narrative. I don't want them to know that if I never, ever have to set foot in a grocery store, I just wouldn't. Right? So it's important that we set that end frame. And sometimes we ask the customer really stupid questions, and then we base our experiences off the dumb questions that we ask them. All right. And then the last piece I want to show you, and I know this is small, but you will get a copy of this. Below that waterline is the business, how the organization was designed. And I can tell you a lot of organizations were not designed around the customer. And if it's a big older organization, if they've been in business for more than 5 years, sometimes they really fall in love with their products. And sometimes over time, they structure the business in a way that's geared up on efficiency or compliance, and it's not around the customer. I said to my team the other day, I said, guys, we're way too in love with our products. We need to focus on the customer again. We need to fall in love with the problems that we're solving and not the products that we have. Our products are fantastic, but we need to be in love with the problem. All right, now, if we're trying to make a change, it's important to do these 4 steps. So discover. You want to really understand what your customer wants, what your employees want. You want to define and articulate that essence. And then you want to design experiences for them. And the output of those designs are personas and stakeholder maps and customer journey maps and employee journey maps. And then step 4, which is often neglected, then the real work starts. All right. Then you need to do stuff. Then you need to act upon those journeys. So I wanted to, this is sometimes like I just bought my kids a 1,000-piece puzzle. And unless you have that picture on the box, you are totally screwed. You're not going to get that puzzle right. So this is like that puzzle picture that's going to show you how to put this all together. So now I want to go a little bit more in depth on journeys. And if you have a customer journey and it's gathering dust, or it's somewhere on a wall and it's turning yellow, and someone's asking you questions, what's happening with that customer journey? How much have we done? And not a lot has happened. This is your cue now. Feel free to put some questions in the chat. Also feel free to ask some questions on LinkedIn. Tess is going to watch it, and Tess can interrupt me at any time when she sees a question that we should be paying attention to. Thank you, Tess. So I want to let's quickly have a look at where you are in what state your journey is in. So let's say you've got a journey map. You're not sure whether it's any good. Let's say you ask someone to do it, or you have it from a previous project and now you've been given this journey map and you have it, but you don't know. And I'm going to give you some advice. You also might have a journey map and it's great, but it's stuck in files. And then You might have a journey map and you've got a plan to go with it, but you're not quite sure whether that plan's been activated. So it's important to know where you are. And then I have seen many journey maps in my career, and these are some of the key questions that I would like for you to consider when you have a journey map that you were not necessarily part of creating. So you were not involved in the design efforts, but now you've been given this and you need to go and implement it. Important question number one is the customer considered and were they involved in that design? So did they contribute to that journey map? Did they co-design with the team that created that? Second question is, has the frontline employees been involved? So was the journey designed with them as well, them talking about their pain and some of the areas where they get stuck? And is that journey designed in a way that it's going to solve problems for them as well? The reason why that's important is if you don't solve problems for them, you are unlikely to get cooperation. So if you want people to believe in what you're doing, and if you want them to be on this journey with you, you need to define what their pain and what their gain is. If you haven't done that, then you need to go back to the drawing board and create a stakeholder map and look at how am I going to motivate people to be on this journey with me. Then the third question there, was the journey designed with a few people? If your journey was designed with less than 10 people, unless you're a tiny organization, I would relook at that. Too often we see initiatives where a passionate customer experience team goes somewhere into a corner office and they design amazing journeys, and then they come out and they go, okay, we've got the best journey ever. Now you go and do it. People go, what do I need to go and do? I have a day job, right? So you need to involve people in these design efforts. The wonderful thing about people coming up with ideas, even if it's a half-baked idea, once someone's given birth to an idea, they want to nurture the idea. They want to be a part of the implementation of the idea. So it's really important that you allow people in the organization to co-create, that you get people to collaborate, that the journey design is such a great tool to actually develop skills in your organization. I have run sessions over the last 15 years with various industries and corporates, and sometimes I do the same journey design session 10 times with groups of 10 people each. And every time I pretend like I haven't facilitated this before. And then when you overlay and you merge those results, you get the absolute richest result. So next question there, does the journey map have the desired emotions? Do you set an emotional target in the moments of the journey map? If you don't, then according to me, you need to go back to the drawing board. And then does the map show how to exceed and fail the customer expectations? So unless you've got the predictability there of, I know that these are the cardinal sins and this is going to break my relationship with my client. And I know these are the things I'd really like to do in order to create the best emotion possible that person associates that with my brand. So these are some of the questions that I really want you to ponder on. And if you haven't done these things or it hasn't been done by the team before you, I would go back to the drawing board. All right, then. So where do you want to be? So you know where you are, you've got your journey design, and now you need to decide where do you want to go with that. If you want to implement the original vision of creating wow for your customers and creating a space where your employees can really be happy to help, then you need to determine what's the gap. All right, so you've got a journey map. So I would ask, have your stakeholders been engaged? Is the story in your journey map strong? Because you need a strong story that people will tell on your behalf. Do you have a solid plan? And are the benefits clear in terms of you closing that gap and getting to your end goal of creating wow for both your employees and your customers? If you don't have that, then you need to go and fill in those gaps. So get your stakeholders engaged, create create a stakeholder map, start, sharing the story, build a strong presentation pack where you show this is what's going to happen if we implement this journey. This is the aspirational view. This is what's going to happen if we don't do it. And I'll show you on the plan later how we weave that in. And then you need to create a solid plan with actions to really make that journey happen. And I'll share a few ideas with you on that. And then the benefits. Too many people, the previous webinar was all about how to build a relationship with your CFO and how to show them results and how to answer those difficult questions around ROI. And I really, in that webinar, I aim to shift people's perception that their CFO is an asshole. He's really not an asshole. He's just doing his job. All right. If you're not answering his questions, then you are the asshole. All right. So if you didn't catch that webinar, I'll ask Arshad to send you a link to that, and you can go and catch. You can go and watch it and decide who's the asshole in the room. All right. So important to articulate the benefits and important to keep on repeating that story. I had a mentor early in my life. I spoke about him the last time. Nino, a short Italian man. Really, really, really funny, but really hardcore. And he said to me, it's like writing in the snow, Chantal. You've got to write in the snow every day. So that story needs to be strong so you can tell it over and over and people want to listen to the story. And also the benefits. You need to repeat yourself over and over. And I'm not suggesting repeat yourself with a boring presentation pack. You need a really strong story where people want to come and listen to you. All right, so let's talk about prioritization. So you're sitting with your journey map and you've got lots of things that need to get done. All right, now deciding what you are going to do. I found the following prioritization, and it's really simple, and it's the world according to me. The following prioritization really works. So you want to look for things that are very high volume, and you want to look for things that are high emotion for the client and for your team. All right, and that's where you want to pick something that you can start with and implement it. So if you look at a journey that happens through the life cycle of the client, and it's 5 years in their life, and you want to start doing things, sometimes it's really, really daunting. So you want to pick one thing and implement that one thing, get the results that you want, and then move on to the next thing. So if we bite off smaller pieces and we start implementing things, that motivates your team, that makes sure that you get the attention of the executives, it makes sure that you show them results quickly. So let me give you an example. I'm going to focus on a financial services oriented example because that is I would say more challenging because it's such a compliance driven environment. So if we look at, let's say, life insurance and investments, you get an annual portfolio statement, right? That's very high volume. It's probably not that high emotive, but it's a really important dashboard for people to see what they have and to make decisions. And most of the time, those portfolio statements are dead boring, right? They come in a white envelope, they printed in black and white, they have small print at the back. These things are not interesting to read. And if we look at the purpose of that, yes, the company has a compliance reason that they need to tell people what's happening with their insurance and investments. But really, that's a piece of wisdom that gives you the ability once a year to just review your affairs. It's really in the best interest of the client to say, hey, take a look at what you've got. If you've had some children in between or you've bought a house, maybe what you had is not sufficient anymore. And we know people should have advisors looking after them, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So if I have 2 million policyholders and I work on the annual portfolio statement and I make it interesting and I make it easy to understand and I make it something that people actually look forward to reading, then I'm going to have a lot more brand affinity, right? So that's maybe something I want to grab. The other gold mine is taking things that break. Right, you want to take your top 10 complaints, you want to work on them, you want to make sure that you do root cause analysis and fix them at the source, and that's going to get you the results. But you need to also know what you want to measure. So if you fix something, how am I going to know? How am I going to know that it's without haunting my client, without phoning them 50 times and asking them to complete a survey? How am I going to know that it's fixed? Right. So prioritization, you want to go for high volume, high emotion, and show results when you implement those things. All right. The next thing, a plan, right? And I specifically didn't put up an Excel spreadsheet here. I thought I'd make it interesting with a hand-drawn plan. So you want to get your actions out of your journey map into a plan. Very important that you assign a person to it, not a group, not an entity, not a department. You want someone's face against that. You know what I was going to say, Tess. I reassessed what I was going to say there. Okay, you want someone's beautiful face next to that action. All right, then you want to, and this is also not something that you go in a dark room and do by yourself. You want to collaborate on this. You want to involve the important stakeholders that need to get this stuff done. You want to work with them to understand what's the effort going to be to get this done, what's the benefit going to be. And then I have a sneaky tactic. You also put the cost of not doing it. If you do nothing, what's going to happen? Is there an opportunity that you're going to miss? Is there something that you're not just going to miss out as a business? Or is there frustration that's going to keep on happening in a specific area? Now, most of what's on a plan will be in one of those three categories: people, process, technology. Most organizations fixate on the technology. Right, they want to get the form doing this. They want to do this on an app. They want to get that on a chat. And they forget about the process and the people. What I've seen is the biggest benefit is if you get your people excited to work with your customers. So don't just glance over the people things. Once you've designed a journey, I truly believe that that journey needs to be activated in the hearts and the minds of the people delivering that journey. They need to be excited. They need to look at those moments of magic and go, oh, I can do that. And they need to look at those moments of misery and go, oh, I'm sure I can avoid those moments of misery. I know how to do that. So hearts and minds of the people, don't forget that off your plan. Then let's just quickly just recap. So again, the only way you're going to get people to do what you want them to do is if you understand their pain and if you understand their goals and where they're moving towards. And you want to make sure that when you communicate in a way where it's going to be clear to them what's in it for them. I joke about everybody's tuned into this radio station, WIIFM, what's in it for me, right? What's in it for me? So you want to remove pain, you want to shift to pleasure. And then there's this thing, fear of pain, which sometimes paralyzes us, right? So we're just too scared to make a decision. We're just too scared to implement something. And we rather go into a holding pattern. And in that holding pattern, doing nothing is making a decision. And doing nothing and a holding pattern will take you closer to pain eventually. And that's when CX teams come to me and say, Chantal, you need to help us. Our executives are asking us what's happening. Why has nothing happened? We need you to show results. We need you to do something because at the moment we're not sure whether you're adding value. And then they go into this imposter syndrome spiral, right? So you want to avoid that from happening by picking things carefully and by showing results early on, biting off pieces that you can actually do. And ultimately, your goal is to create more love for your brand, to create great experiences for customers and employees, and to ultimately remove frustration and create a happier world. All right, so that is what I prepared to share with you today. And I'm going to now ask Tess to help me with some questions.
Great stuff. Thanks, Chantal. We don't have any questions yet. So maybe if we can ask some of our participants and some of the guys in the room if they have any questions, either you can pop it into a chat, or if you want to hop off mute and just voice your question to us in the session.
And there used to be a 6-second rule, right? But I can wait. I have time. Pranushka looks like she's got a question. Come on, Pranushka. My hope is on you. Look at that beautiful smile. No question.
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
She's boldly honest. Amazing, amazing. All right, let's see what.
Tabitha has got. Sorry, Chantal. She's in the chat, and I think I might have just spoken over someone. So sorry. Who have we got?
Tabu.
Okay, Tabo's got a question. Go for it, Tabo.
Yes. In the presentation, there was a mentioning of the essence. About what the essence of a brand or a product. And I just wanted to know how you establish that. Is the essence more like your secret ingredient, or is it something you try to embody, or would it be something more on the line of a value? How do you define the essence of a
Oh, Tabu, I love that. I love that question. So the essence is a mix of some ingredients, right, Tabo? And usually the way we lead companies to find their essence is through many, many workshops with their leaders and with their teams. And again, if people feel that they have a voice and that they can provide input into this essence, that's when you get the magic, right? So it's if you look at let's say Tabasco, and you look at the back of a Tabasco bottle, right? And you look at all those ingredients need to be blended by people in the organization. And a lot of the time, the essence already exists in your organization. It's just giving it a voice. And it's just allowing people to blend that together into a line that they can feel proud. We worked with a client 2 years ago, and they came up with the essence, we care because we are caring, not because we get paid a salary. We care because we're caring. And that was just a beautiful essence because it says something about them. And now I can take care and I can design it into these journeys. And if I then go and I find in my journey, I've got a 3-page form that a client needs to fill in when they want to end their membership. Then I go, is that caring? Do I care? I'm making it really hard for them to stop the relationship with me. So then it becomes like a true north. It almost becomes a design principle against which I measure my people, my technology, and my processes to say, are we caring when we do this? When I measure people on average handling time and I say to them, like, call can't be more than 3 minutes, right? Am I caring? I get the one client and now the person's penalized because they're not managing their average handling time. Tabo, I'm hoping that makes sense. I'm seeing a smile. All right, Tess, go for it. Next.
Good. So we've got a question from Vilma. How do you involve your customer in the journey map when you have no relationship with your client?
So, Vilma, I'm guessing this is a particular situation, right? And I can't remember enough. I know we've had interactions before, but I can't remember enough. So I would just say it's a problem if you don't have a relationship with your customer, right? That's a problem. If you have an intermediary that has the relationship, right? Then you need to work with the intermediary as a proxy. If it's a system, then there's some other things that you do. I don't know. Vilma, you want to tell me a little bit more? Tell me a bit more. Then I can give you a better quality answer.
Okay. So what I meant by not having a relationship with your client. So we provide a platform for people to trade cryptocurrency on. And the entire interaction with your user is, I wouldn't say anonymous, because you do FICA and KYC them. It's become very regulated lately, but you don't physically talk to that amount of users where you can actually say to them, come on board, and what do you expect from this platform? Number one, the technology is quite new. Or the principle of crypto is quite new. There's a lot of perception out there about it, lots of education needed. So to involve them in actually doing an entire mapping in a traditional way, I have a lot of experience in financial services, which was easy per se, because you can build that relationship either yourself or through a broker. But now you're on a platform, I can tell you exactly where they live, which country, what their trading volume is like, what age they are. But that's about that. But you do not have a physical interaction with them. It's kind of an anonymous, for lack of a better term,
Yes.
platform.
Yes.
And that's why I
Yes.
said you can't build that. How would you go about establishing that map and that customer pain points from that situation?
So Vilma, I almost want to challenge you to say, is it necessary to have a relationship with them? What is they what do they have affinity to? Because again, I think, I look at certain interactions where people say to me, so um how do we bring wow, and how do we make those things remarkable? And I go, you can't. Just let it be. You don't need to bring wow into everything. So I think if there's a way, if the experience is, it's important to give a human-like experience, then I would say go that extra mile to get in touch with the needs of your customer. But if it's not necessary, I mean, I was talking in the last webinar, I was talking to someone who says, well, they do a lot of bulk transactions, so it's machine to machine doing these transactions, right? Nobody cares as long as they happen within the SLA that you've agreed, and as long as the beneficiary of the bulk transaction is happy with that service, that relationship happens at a different level, right? So I would not force the the customer experience principles around giving a warm human service on something where it doesn't really fit. So I think that's maybe something for you to think about. It's very different to a chat interaction where you just don't want the chat. We once had an experience where we were doing a blueprint audit for a client, and we used their chat, and the chat had still the default names that it comes out of the box with, and we would get an email from someone different, but the chat would be Bob. And we we spoke often with Bob, and we had different emails from different people. So I think it's important to understand why you want to make the experience better and why you're doing that journey. And I think a lot of people are doing journeys because they have existing pain and they probably don't have as new a business model as what you do. All right, I hope that helped. Tess, go for it.
I think also what part of what you just said reminded me of the conversation that we had in the last webinar, where even if it is a online portal and it is it's purely transactional, making it really easy for people to give you feedback, not hiding your complaints or compliments section like behind. I'm sorry, it's feeding time for the dogs. I really hope you guys can't hear that. But like, not hiding your feedback session at the in the footer, and then 3 4 5 clicks behind something else, and make it really really hard for people to actually tell you what works and what doesn't. So I find the tech related companies that really have good momentum are the ones that actually have a possibility for you to make comments and everything quite directly, and they're not quite proactive about that. So even though it isn't person to person and in-person contact, there is still that ability to get the feedback live from your people, because you'll generally find, and Chantal, you've made this point before, people want to help. People want to make your platform or your business or your experience better. for themselves, because when I come back to your platform, I really hope it's going to be easier the next time around. That's why I'm asking you how to, that's why I'm giving you pointers and saying how to make it easier. So I just thought of throwing that in there as well.
Amazing. Thanks, Tess. So let's look at Melissa's question. Can you explore a few ways of ascertaining how effective your implementation has been while still limiting the contact time, where you're not doing survey after survey? So I think, Melissa, what's important is before you start implementing, being smart about what you're going to look out for. So I'm going to give you a quick example. We worked on a project for a health insurance company, and they were losing a lot of members. And they said, well, can you please look at what happens at the time when members leave? And we found a very complicated process to leave. They had to fill in a form and tell the company everything that they already knew about them. And it was also quite a desperate call that they made to this member to almost interrogate them about why they're leaving. And we looked at this and we saw that affordability was the biggest reason why members cancelled their health insurance. And we redesigned that journey, making it a journey of care and making it a journey focused on wisdom, so that when someone leaves, they leave on a high note. So we used Daniel Kahneman's peak end rule, and we said, how can we make that experience a really positive one? We reframed that call where people called and said, rather than sounding like debt collectors, they sounded like, wise mentors saying, we've received your membership cancellation, and I'm the consultant assigned to you, and there's a couple of important things that you need to know before we cancel your membership, and I want to make sure that I impart some wisdom on you and that my door's always open. And the most important thing when you cancel your health insurance is to understand that there might be a waiting time, a waiting period when you join new health insurance. And most people, they get that nasty surprise and then they go, well, the previous people didn't tell me. So there were a couple of things that people needed to know. And we were watching the metrics very carefully, Melissa. We knew that we wanted to understand, what people's experience were and whether they can be given some other options so that they don't leave. Can they be downgraded? Can they go onto a more cost-effective package? So that was probably an easy one because we had those metrics beforehand and we could very quickly see that, after 4 months, there were amazing results and people didn't leave as much. They also, opted for more cost-effective packages. And all in all, if they did do the surveys there, people just said it was a much better. They had such a good impression. They felt that the service there was fantastic. And the most important thing, Melissa, was the team that handled those interactions. Their lives got so much better because they felt that they were on purpose. They felt that they were making a difference. They didn't feel like, because they incentivized on how many clients can they keep. Right now, when you are incentivized on how many clients you can keep, you get quite desperate, right? If they're all leaving because of affordability. So I would say the biggest difference I saw was in that team and hearing their feedback and seeing the results in them. So there's a couple of things. I believe that if you give clients an amazing experience, they will tell you. And I believe people are just completely getting fatigued of everyone sending them surveys and people just don't want to answer them. You're not solving a problem for me by sending me a survey. You're solving a problem for you. And these surveys, they interrupt, they demand time. So I believe people can be a lot smarter around how they elicit feedback. And you've got your front line. Your front line will tell you if you just listen to them. I hope that helped. All right, amazing.
Thanks, Chantal. There's another, not so much a question, but a comment from Tabitha also just saying that the difficulty isn't getting businesses or business to start doing something. And I suppose it's also, trying to get that momentum going.
Pain or gain, pain or gain. I think we have passionate customer experience professionals in many organizations, of which, Tabitha, you are one. And I think sometimes you're like the Lone Ranger and Tonto, right? Your leaders don't want to listen. They've got other priorities. And I do believe that, businesses who are not paying attention to this, they are going to feel more pain. And by the time that they feel the pain very intensely, right, it's spread. Okay, the pain is spread. So I think if you don't have a team constantly watching your complaints, constantly looking at, how can we nurture our clients? How can we remove moments of misery? If that's the only thing you do, look at your complaints, look at your top 10 complaints and start resolving them at the source. And sometimes it's just missed expectations. Sometimes it's poor communication. If we look at, typical insurance, people would go, oh, but you got a membership guide 5 years ago and it was 500 pages. And most companies would go, on page 27, and the customer goes, I don't give a hoot. Page 27, I didn't read it. I didn't consume that information because I didn't need it then. But I did file it away because I kind of knew that there was going to be some small print. And I think it's about being smart when you share the information. What's the information you share? And being very practical about your journeys. I think often journey mapping is also a theoretical, highly academic exercise. You need to be super practical about it. All right, Tess, so if there is no more questions, I'm just going to thank you all and say fantastic. Thanks for joining us. Arshad, I think there's probably a few parting words that you want to say for people hungry to learn. Arshad is your man. If you've got specific needs, you can get in touch with Arshad, and he is going to leave his email address in the chat. Right, Arshad?
Yeah, sure. So, good people, there's so much that we can learn. I think it's one of my philosophies is that learning never stops. And we live in this day and age where everything is changing. So what you don't want to have is a journey that's